Hello and welcome to Introduction to Pharmacology. So, this is one of my favorite courses, so I am absolutely glad to have you here. As always, please leave me a comment in the description, and not in the description, leave me a comment below. Just letting me know what's useful, what would be useful to you, what you enjoy, what you would like to see added in the future, and I will be sure to read them and respond. So, getting started, what is pharmacology? At its core, pharmacology is the study of drugs and their effects on living organisms. So, this includes how drugs interact with the body and the body's responses. So, a nurse's interaction with drugs, it doesn't just occur frequently, but it's also important. So, it's really, really important that nurses understand the ins and outs of medications to ensure safety and effective patient care. Pharmacology is actually a relatively new science. It only came to be what it is nowadays just about 150 years ago. So it only truly began after human beings developed the scientific method and figured out how to extract pure compounds from plants. Before that, though, the earliest use of medicines were made from plants and animal mixtures. Generally, scientists believe that these mixtures were likely ineffective, and that any effect that they did have were probably just the placebo effect. Eventually, though, through trial and error, people started to realize that they could use natural products as medicine. For example, the ancient Egyptians would prescribe opium and castor oil for various ailments. The first step towards pharmacology as we know it today began when we were finally able to extract pure drug compounds from natural sources like plants. The first one to occur was morphine, which was extracted from opium in the early 1800s. And by the late 1800s, the first pharmacology laboratory also opened. Now, the goal of pharmacology is to learn how drugs work within the body so that we can use them effectively to treat diseases. We want to understand the mechanisms so well that we can make rational decisions about which drugs translate to the best outcomes for patients. Now, there are two subdivisions of pharmacology that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So, pharmacodynamics is referring to the study of the physiological effects of drugs on the body or on microorganisms within the body. And it's also referring to the mechanisms of drug action and the relationship between drug concentrations and their effects on the body. So, in simple terms, pharmacodynamics is answering the question, what do drugs do to the body? Pharmacokinetics, on the other hand, is answering the question of what does the body do to the drugs? Pharmacokinetics is looking at how the body processes the drugs. It's looking at absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion, or ADME, the ADME of a drug. We'll talk about that more later. But just remember, pharmacokinetics is asking what does the body do to the drugs, while pharmacodynamics is asking what does the drug do to the body. Okay, first first NCLEX style review question. Pharmacology is best described as the study of, please pause the video here and I will tell you the answer in a bit. And I'll be telling you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is D, the effects of drugs on the body and their mechanism of action. So options A and B They touch on aspects of other disciplines related to pharmacology. However, the core of pharmacology is best described by the effects of drugs on the body and their mechanisms of action. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about what pharmacology is. See, modern pharmacology isn't just about understanding which drugs to use. It actually dives much more deeper than that. It involves examining the biochemical and molecular foundations of how drugs work in our body. So, one of the foundational concepts in pharmacology is something called the dose response relationship. It's about how a specific drug concentration in a tissue correlates to the magnitude of the response. To put it more simply, it's about how the amount of drug in a certain part of the body affects the strength of its response. It's like adjusting the volume on your TV as you increase the volume or the drug dose, and the output, the effect becomes more pronounced. So let's dive a little bit more into how drugs achieve their desired effects. They typically find and bind to protein receptors in our body's target tissue. So you can think of it like a lock and key mechanism where the drug is the key, the key, fits into these receptors, the locks, to initiate whatever its intended effect is going to be. So now when a drug binds to its receptors, it doesn't just stop there though. It sets off a series of events like dominoes, they're just falling one after the other. This process is known as signal transduction. Though through this, a single drug interaction can amplify and lead to several different physiological changes. Moving on, let's talk about toxicology. At its core, toxicology is all about studying poisons and how they affect the different organs in our bodies. This is a crucial field. It helps us to understand the potential dangers of various substances. But beyond even just understanding poisons, toxicology also looks at the negative impacts of drugs and other chemicals. This can range all the way from minor irritations to more severe health implications. So, similar to pharmacology, toxicology zeroes in on the relationship between how much of a substance is given and how much of it ends up in our tissues and the biological effects that arise out of doing that. Overall, it's incredibly important for us to note that while drugs aim to heal and alleviate symptoms, they're not without their risks. And toxicology is a great field for helping us to find out those risks. Many of the drugs that we prescribe can be toxic if taken in large quantities. So if they're not given in therapeutic or safe ranges, many of these drugs can lead to severe adverse effects. On to the next section, pharmacotherapeutics. So, when we're talking about pharmacotherapeutics, we're discussing the core of medical treatment. It's about harnessing the power of drugs to combat disease and improve health. So, pharmacology serves as the foundation for pharmacotherapeutics. Pharmacology provides us with key insights into how these drugs work, their actions, their interactions, and their overall effects on our body. So think of it as the science behind the medicine. Um, Before a drug reaches our pharmacy shelves, for instance, it has to go through rigorous testing and research. This initial stage, which is led by research pharmacologists, sets the stage for our understanding of potential drug candidates and their implications. This is called preclinical research. Now, while this preclinical research is important and it is vital, the true test of a drug's potential is in its clinical trials. This is where we're going to gauge how effective and how safe these drugs are when they are administered to human subjects. This is the bridge between those laboratory findings in the preclinical research phase and its real world applications in the clinical trials. Now, last but not least, let's talk about pharmacy. When we think about pharmacy, it's more than just a place where you go to pick up your prescriptions. It's actually a multifaceted science and profession. It deals with everything from the initial preparation of drugs to ensuring that they're used correctly with patients and by patients. Essentially, pharmacy is the front line of ensuring effective and safe drug delivery. So, as moving on from pharmacy a little bit, let's look at pharma. Oh, this word in me, pharmacognosy. um, this field delves into the rich resources of plants, microbes, and even animal tissue to discover and understand drugs. It's a fascinating blend of traditional knowledge and modern science. Next, we have medicinal chemistry. So, medicinal chemistry is where creativity kind of meets science. It's where experts design and synthesize new drugs, making sure that they are effective for medical treatments. It's essentially the hub of innovation in in the world of drug development. Lastly, after a drug is discovered and developed, how do we ensure that we deliver it effectively? Well, we have pharmaceutical chemistry. Pharmaceutical chemistry focuses on just that, ensuring that um, drugs are delivered effectively. So, whether it's a tablet, a liquid solution, an aerosol, this field is ensuring that drugs are formulated in the ways that our bodies can use it the best, the ways that our bodies can optimally accept and use them. Okay, let's look at some practice problems as we round up. Before a drug reaches the pharmacy shelves, it typically undergoes, you will get the answer in five, four, three, two, one. The correct answer is A, preclinical research by research pharmacologists. So before a drug reaches the general public, it undergoes rigorous testing which starts with preclinical research. This phase of research primarily happens in the lab, and it uses cell cultures or animal models to determine whether or not whatever this candidate drug is promising enough to move on to human testing. Okay, last question. In the realm of toxicology, which statement is true regarding most drugs? And you will get the answer in five, four, three, two, one. And the correct answer is B. They can be toxic at high doses. So, most drugs have the potential to be toxic if taken in excessive amounts. So, while the therapeutic effects are observed within a particular dosage range, when we surpass this range, it can lead to rather toxic effects, and regardless of how we combine it with other drugs. Alrighty, guys, please make sure to like, subscribe, leave me a comment about what you want to see in the future. I will be sure to start working on it. Bye.